Bobby Torres of Frightbox recording here to share with you my technique for EQing vocals the easy way. Now, like many other things when it comes to mixing hard rock and metal, people love to turn stuff into rocket science, but believe me, it doesn't have to be that way. I see all these crazy videos online and I hear people asking all these questions in forums like how you should notch frequencies out of vocals, what you should boost, what you should cut, what mic you should use, blah, 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 blah. But in reality, again, it does not have to be that complicated. Trust me. Now, just recently I wrapped up a production with my good friends in a band called Mainline. They're an awesome hard rock / metal band with an old school style vibe, and I felt like this production would be the perfect way to showcase my approach for making vocal EQ much easier and much simpler and much more to the point. I've left a link to their music below in this video's description, so check them out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the song back and then I'm gonna dissect and explain to you exactly how I achieved the vocal sound that you hear in this mix. Let's check it out.
Suck it up, I can always feel your stare. Don't feel right, you're walking in the night. Always someone behind my back. Vicious anger running through my veins. I'm always on attack. Excuses are the same. I pass blame for who I am. And all I got is my name. I just don't give a damn.
So in my opinion, that's a pretty crisp, warm sounding vocal tone. And it all has to do with the way I EQ'd the track, which wasn't very complicated. So let's get right to it and let's break this down. So if you notice here, I have 3 vocal tracks, all with the exact same EQ happening. I have a lead vocal, a vocal double, and a vocal harmony. And again, they're all using the exact same EQ curves. And as far as the actual EQ curve on the tracks themselves, all I'm using is a high pass filter at around 100 Hertz. That's it. And just to be sure, this is my lead vocal, that's my vocal double, and that's my vocal harmony. Nothing fancy happening on the tracks themselves. Again, just a high pass filter. Now, one of the biggest problems that we all face when it comes to using plugins is that we can make things, again, overly complex, and we turn this into rocket science when it doesn't have to be that way. You do not have to go crazy forensically chasing frequencies or anything like that. Things could sometimes be much simpler, in my opinion, back in the analog days. This is because we weren't staring at screens. We were turning knobs and using these things called ears. Now again, especially if you're a beginner, you can get caught up in numbers. And this used to happen to me all of the time. This is why sometimes I like to lean on plugins that have more of an analog flavor. Not so much in sound, that's an awesome side benefit, but just in workflow. And in this particular mix, I'm doing all of my creative EQing on the vocal submix. And I'm using one plugin, the Sonimus Pro EQ. Now, if you've ever watched any of my videos, you probably know that I am not a big gearhead. I'm not the type of person that always buys new plugins because I generally work with what I have. But every once in a while, I'll come across a new plugin that really helps my workflow out, and these Sonimus plugins have been killer. Not only are they super affordable, but they're very easy to use and very musical. So if you look here, there's no actual graph or no EQ curves. It's set up like an analog style EQ with simple knobs. This is great because I use my ears instead of using my eyes when I mix. So what I want to do right now is I want to solo the vocal and bypass the EQ that's happening on my vocal submix. So the only EQ on my vocal is this simple high pass filter on the track itself. As far as any other EQing, everything is bypassed, again, because I have the EQ on my submix bypassed. Let's hear the vocal.
Don't got the time, something's on my mind, my heart begins to tear. Beating up, but I suck it up, I can always feel your stare.
As you could tell, very boxy sounding. So I'm using the Sonimus Pro EQ to shape my vocal sound. So I'm gonna re-engage the plugin, and let's hear what my vocal sounds like with the plugin engaged.
Don't got the time, something's on my mind, my heart begins to tear. Beating up, but I suck it up, I can always feel your stare. Don't feel right, you're walking in the night, always someone.
So as you can tell, when I re-engage the plugin, it almost sounds like there's been a blanket lifted off my vocal sound. And it's all because I just have some basic EQ happening on the actual Sonimus Pro EQ. So if we look here, we see a bunch of knobs, but it's very simple. This right here is my low shelf roll off. The more I increase this knob, the more it's rolling off or reducing my low frequencies. So let's hear the vocal in solo again.
Don't got the time, something's on my mind, my heart begins to tear.
Again, I'm reducing the excess low end in a very musical way, and I'm not getting caught up in numbers looking at a screen with a graph. I'm doing it again by feel. And I have my frequency set to 100 Hertz. So everything below 100 Hertz is being reduced as I increase that knob. Now there are a few other functions here. This EQ could do a lot, but I'm using it for a few basic functions that are really helping me carve out my vocal sound. The one thing I'm doing is I'm reducing lower mids. So let's see what this lower mid knob is doing.
Don't got the time, something's on my mind, my heart begins to tear.
So I have my frequency set to around 700 Hertz, and I'm just reducing that range by about 5 dB. Now I just want to stress this. When I mixed the song, I didn't even pay attention to the numbers. I was just doing it by feel, just like an engineer would be doing on an analog console or with a piece of analog outboard gear. In my opinion, that's the real benefit to using plugins like this, is that you get more in a musical mindset than a technical one. So with that being said, I have a little bit of higher mids boosted at around 7K by 2 dB. And I have a high shelf reducing all of my super duper air frequencies. The setting I have it on here, this HS, is the high shelf, and the more I increase the knob, the more it's actually reducing the frequencies. Now the way I have the EQ configured right now is that the more I increase this knob, the more it's reducing my super duper top end frequencies, like frequencies above 10K, in a very creative way of EQing my vocal without having to think about numbers. Again, I was just reducing a frequency range without even having to think about it much. So now onto the fun stuff. One of the things that I love most about an analog style EQ like this by a company like Sonimus is that they introduce harmonic saturation. Now I do this a lot with stock plugins as well, but it's very convenient to have saturation built right into your EQ plugin. It's just one less plugin that you have to load on your chain. So for me, there are really three primary benefits. One, I can mix my vocals without having to get too caught up in numbers and getting too surgical and staring at a graph on a screen. Two, I can add some extra saturation. And three, it cleans up my sessions because I use less plugins. And for me, less is always more. So with all that being said, let's listen to the resulting vocal sound.
Walking in the night, always someone behind my back. Vicious anger running through my veins, I'm always on attack. Excuses are the same, I pass blame for who I am. And all I got is my name, I just don't give a damn.
So there you have it, that's how I'm using the Sonimus Pro EQ within my hard rock and metal mixes. Now, if you're interested in the plugin, I will leave a link to it right below in this video's description, and full disclosure, it is an affiliate link. So if you decide to purchase the plugin through that link, you'll be helping to support me and the channel. So with that being said, I would love to hear your opinion. Do you use analog style plugins like this? And if you do, which ones are your favorite and which ones do you tend to use on your mixes? Leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know. I'd love to hear your opinion. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload one of our weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. You can both like and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Links are in the description below. And be sure to download my 5-step guide to better heavy mixes. I want you to achieve better results with gear you have right now. So download the free guide and get yourself pointed in the right direction for the next time you tackle a metal mix within your home studio. Till next time, happy mixing.